Yo, yo, yo. We getting straight to it today. No intro. Straight up into the video. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all for tuning in because I could be anywhere else, but y'all here with me right now. I'm doing my Steelers talk, and I wanted to jump right into it. Now, we all see that now and a lot of mock drafts, and our fan base were like Walter Nolan with the 21st overall pick if he's available. But we also have to remember that this is chess. The draft is so fun because there's teams out there that think and know that the Pittsburgh Steelers want Walter Nolan. They may not even want Walter Nolan, but they may take him anyway, right? They just may go ahead and just take Walter Nolan anyhow. Like, okay, I just want to take Walter Nolan. But the thing is when we're looking at the other teams and they're letting other players go. I believe Buffalo's letting Phillips go, and there's a slew of teams out there. And I'm not just saying just Buffalo because Buffalo will make a move and trade up in the draft. They're a team that will trade up. I think Green Bay might thinking about trading up. There's teams out there that likes to trade up. We don't, however. And I think sometimes that can hurt us because we're so caught in traditional mode. Like sometimes I think you got to shake things up a little bit. And I think that's what we got to start doing moving forward. As you know, what I mean, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, we have to start being a little bit more spontaneous in decisions as far as this goes, as the draft and free agency and things go. Like we have to do things that we normally don't do just to catch these people off guard because they're expecting the Pittsburgh Steelers to not make big free agent moves. They're expecting the Pittsburgh Steelers not to move up in the draft. You know what I'm saying? And I think that can help us if anything, because you know if we're presenting a good deal last minute, I don't see nobody passing up on that. But however, Cam Hayward is being a little older, and the reason why I got the stats pulled up is follow me here in a minute. We're going to go through some receivers that can help us in the later rounds that may be available in the later rounds, and that's why I kind of got the stats pulled up just because it's a name list, right? I could have got PFF pulled up also, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get this pulled up because I think that there's PFF doesn't have, they have a certain amount of receivers, and sometimes they got guys rated 78s that I think that should be at least 80s and or 83s, and you know they do pretty good with the grading system or how they do it, but you know sometimes they just don't have all the guys available that may fit that particular scheme, because this is about scheme fit, and this is about, you know what I mean, this is about who the team wants, not who PFF thinks that everybody should be drafting, right? And they do a fantastic job over there. I'm not saying that they don't, but you know, I just want to get a full list of everybody at the receiver position, you know what I mean, and what they're doing, because we seen them all through college football. Now, Cam Hayward, but the one thing, and him teaching back to Walter Nolan and Cam Hayward, I know I'm everywhere right now, but just follow me. And Cam Hayward with Walter Nolan teaching him the ropes, the Pittsburgh Steelers culture, how to take care of your body. Because one thing that Cam Hayward does not get talked about enough about is how well he takes care of his body as a professional in his latter years. Cam Hayward is up there in age, but he takes care of his body so well. He's always preparing in the off season, and I think that longevity that he has to be able to pass that down to somebody like Walter Nolan, if we can get him, would be fantastic, because he's just as explosive or maybe even more explosive than Cam Hayward. And if Walter Nolan goes under Cam Hayward with the right attitude, he can possibly go down as one of the best defensive linemen, excuse me, that Pittsburgh have ever seen. You know what I mean? He can go along amongst those greats. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's an organization that you would absolutely want to do that if you're Walter Nolan, right? So let's just assume. So right now it's kind of a little fantasy operation, but the only thing that is with this is we're assuming right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers have selected Walter Nolan from Ole Miss with the 21st overall pick in the 2025 draft. That's what we're assuming right now. So now we're moving into the second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. And rounds in the draft. So with that being said, now we go ahead and I'm gonna go to the receiving and I'll get some stats pulled up now. Harold Fannin Jr. had a good showing at the Seniors Reese Bowl and he is the leading receiver for the leading receiver for out of everybody, and I think he may be even he'll be taken before the 21st pick. I think that teams like the Indianapolis Colts can use Harold Fannin Jr. I know some people saying that Tyler Warren may be taken before Harold Fannin Jr., but Harold Fannin Jr., Tyler Warren, and excuse me if I, my guy from Miami, his name would come to me. Sometimes I go blank. Sometimes a lot of players that that I talk about on a daily basis, but the tight end from Miami, and I don't know how, Aurora. And I don't think that there's much of a difference there. I just think is who do you want? Like, and that's the thing. And that's what I'm talking about. Like when you look at Aurora, Tyler Warren, and Harold Fannin Jr., I don't think nobody stands out like Brock Bowers did with the Titans last year. You know what I mean? So those three tight and also Loveland. You know what I mean? Loveland's another tight end out there that I think, and you can move these guys everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I think Harold Fannin Jr. is a little bit more athletic than I can't really say he's more athletic than Colston Loveland because Colston Loveland from Michigan was hurt. You know what I mean? He was a little bit banged up playing. And if you can get that kind of production out of Colston Loveland a little bit banged up, then you're like, all right, then I guess he played it really good. But those four tight ends, there's not that big of a separation there. You know what I mean? Now, Harold Fannin Jr. is probably the more athletic out of all of those guys. And I'll say it like I've been saying it again. It's kind of like beating a dead horse at this point. But look, yeah, I get it. The 40 times are going to separate guys. That's what's going to separate these guys because we'll see how well they're catching the ball. But we want to see who's moving well, the 3-cone drill, who's moving well in space, who has quickness, who has the speed. And that's what's going to separate the tight ends. Because I think they're all I think all four of those guys are productive. I think all four of those guys know how to leverage their bodies. I would say Aurora he attacks the ball at the highest point. He definitely is a hell of a receiver. He's a blocker, and I think that's what may separate some of these guys at the next level. And if you're a team like the Indianapolis Colts, who is picking early, and they need a tight end and they want a tight end, you're probably going to be looking at somebody like Colston Loveland. Excuse me. And why do I say that? Because I think Colston Loveland Tyler Warren can also block too. He can also get down and dirty and block. And I think that's why Tyler Warren from Penn State was named first, because Penn State ran the ball a lot. Well, so didn't Michigan. Michigan absolutely they didn't even really have a passing game. So you know what I mean? They didn't even have a quarterback. So they had to run the ball a little bit more. And Colston Loveland, he had a very productive season and the year before last. So not only and his stats went down, and we understand that they didn't have a quarterback at Michigan, and he was still a beast. You know what I mean? And he did what he had to do, and they won their games by running the ball. You go watch that Ohio State game. Colston Loveland was getting dirty. So, I mean, you got to each his own with that. So it's like, okay, so do you want Tyler Warren or do you want Colston Loveland? You know what I mean? Or do you or would you want a guy to be more productive and open up the field like a Harold Fannin Jr.? I'm just saying, I know I got it talking about it because sometimes I get a little bit excited talking about, football in general. But I get where I'm going with that, right? Harold Fannin Jr., Colston Loveland. We don't need a tight end. We just picked up a tight end out of free agency for a year, and we got two other tight ends and Connor Hayward, Connor, excuse me, and yes, and Connor, he can still play uh H back and tight end if need be. So I think we're good at that position. We're pretty set there for right now until somebody's production starts to slip, and then we'll probably be looking into that. And I don't even. I think, and honestly, we just got rid of Pruitt. So Nick Nash. Nick Nash is a guy who is second in the whole NCAA in receiving yards, as y'all can see, and we're looking for receivers, right? And I think he'll be available in the second round around our pick. And not only that, but Nick Nash has the size. I believe he has the speed. Um, because he was a quarterback, an ex-quarterback, another one of these receivers, and I think there's a couple of them out there that made the transfer over into wide receiver, but he's another one that made that transfer over to wide receiver. Now, granted, he played in the Mountain West, which was pretty damn tough, and they'll be the Pac-12 this year, but they was all right, you know. And Nick Nash, his play ability was all over. He's smart, he's very athletic, he can contort, and I think that you can't replace that a lot of the times. And he was healthy throughout the year, and that's somebody that you want. And not he was leading, and he had a lot of touchdowns. Now I get it. He was in the Mountain West. He played Mountain West guys or whatever, but he scored. He had 16 touchdowns in a season. Now, that's more than a lot of other people, but you could say, okay, they played in different conferences. I get that. Touchdowns are touchdowns, catches are catches. I don't care who it's against. You know what I mean? You're going to be covered kind of tight. And everybody knew when they played San Jose State that Nick Nash was the guy to stop. Period, point blank. You know what I mean? They knew that he was part of their offense. He was the superstar on the offense that helped that offense win games. So they knew Nick Nash and it was getting the ball, and they couldn't really stop him on that behalf, right? So I think that he's a solid pickup. I don't know if he'll slide all the way to the third round because I think he'll run pretty good in a 40. And I do think that he'll be a solid second round pick for us. That's one guy. I think T Mac, he'll probably be picked up early, but if T Mac slips, this is another scenario, right? For my Steeler fans out there, right? If T Mac slips to the 21st overall pick, T Mac, and we got a choice between T Mac and Walter Nolan. Who do you want? Would you take? Me, myself, I'm so caught up on the fact that we need weapons on that offense to help George Pickens that I think you would have to take T-Mac. I think you got to take T-Mac, right? Because he can change the trajectory of the game. Now, Walter Nolan can impact it off of the defensive line. But remember, we got TJ Watt still in this prime, and we can probably plug somebody in there. You know what I mean? Get a couple guys in there, or maybe even get a sleeper in the later rounds, because we need somebody that's going to be able to hold their own. If we can't get somebody who can absolutely be the impact player, such as a Walter Nolan in that position, with that athletic ability, then you know what I mean, we need somebody who's going to be able to hold their own. But if T-Mac is there, I it's really a hard choice, because I see where some of you out there may be saying now, like, how could you say that, Trekking? Like, we need another, a defensive lineman, and we have to get him now before Cam gets too old. And if we got a chance to get Walter Nolan, we need to get him now. And I understand that. I do. So I guess, but McMillan probably won't be on the board. I was just throwing that out there. I don't think he'll slip that far in the draft, right? I just don't think so. McMillan probably will be picked up before that pick. If not, somebody trying to trade up and get McMillan, right? He'll be picked up. Jeremiah Smith's not coming out too young. Travis Hunter, he definitely won't be available. He'll be the first overall pick. Owen. Owen from Ohio. Now, this is a guy who will probably be able to get in the later rounds. So this is why I'm not really tripping, right? On trying to get a cornerback or a defensive lineman with the first overall pick now with the first two picks in the draft, because I'm not tripping, because guys like Kyle Williams, Owen, they'll be available. And I even think Noel. I think Noel from Iowa State. I think he'll probably be available. But I think I like Higgins. Higgins is a little bit taller. I think we need a taller guy. Jaden Higgins, 6'4", 215 from South Miami. Um, Another Southern guy. I think he'll be available in the later rounds. And he's going to be productive, and that's what we need, right? But he'll be able to step on the field and get it in. You know what I mean? And that's why I just don't see this draft class being as bad as a lot of the pros say, right? I think these guys could step in and be productive. We need another big body though on the outside, and I think that's why we went after Mike Williams, but he's lost a step or two, with all the injuries and everything throughout the years. Mike Williams he's just not it. So I think we got to go young guy. I even think Trey Harris will be available. Trey Harris from Ole Miss came from a FCS school, moved up into the SEC, and he continued to do his thing. And the way that he can contort his body and catch the ball, Trey Harris and George Pickens can be the Twin Towers in Pittsburgh. You feel what I'm saying? Like, for real, like they really will get it done. Like, they both like that same body type, and they can do some of the same things. So like it's like a mirror image on both sides of the field. Like, pick your poison. Pick your poison. I do think Trey Harris may be available only because of his injuries. And I think that's the only reason why George Pickens slipped to us in the draft, is because of his injury. And Trey Harris they got the identical body types, almost the identical reasons why they both are going to slip, and that's because of the injury last year and his production went down. But remember, Trey Harris was on his way to leading the whole NCAA before he went down with his injury. So he may even slip to the second round. You know what I'm saying? So I think to grab a Trey Harris from Ole Miss would be very ideal pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, because Trey Harris can block very well. He can block. He'll get down and dirty just as Pickens will, and he can catch, makes those tough catches. Go watch the film. His 50-50 is the same, almost the same guy, and I think that's what you need, right? We need possession type of guy, especially with Justin Fields being our quarterback, and Trey Harris is not super slow, right? That's another guy. And you can move him all over, right? You can move him all over the field, like when he played down at Ole Miss on the offensive side of the ball. Kyle Williams is another guy. I think that will be available in the second round. Kyle Williams is a nice slot guy to have. I think he's like, what is he, 6 foot or something? I don't know. Yeah, right. I was right. 6 foot, 186, Cali guy, tough attitude, blocker. He's willing to get dirty, hard worker. And he's been getting better every single year. Every single year he's been progressing. He's been getting better. As you can see here, he's a guy that gets the game, and that's a hard worker. And that, like I said, I think he's an ideal pick. I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping if we take Walter Nolan. I'm not tripping if we take Walter Nolan and then we go cornerback with the second pick, or if we go corner, because for some reason I'm so caught up on Noel Williams. Noel Williams I think he's going to translate over, y'all. I could be wrong, but y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments about Noel Williams. Like, you know what I mean? Because I really think that Noel Williams is going to translate pretty good over, right, with the Steelers. Now, also, I talked about Higgins. I've talked about Restrepo. Restrepo will probably be available third, fourth round. That's another guy that I think that is productive. He was a number one target down in Miami. for Cam Hayward when they got in a pinch, between him and the world. Also, there was other guys, but Restrepo was definitely knew how to. He was a playmaker. He was a playmaker with the ball in his hands. Like he now, you know what I'm saying. If I'm going to put this correctly, like Xavier Restrepo is like the poor man's Mbuka, if you will. But I don't even really want to say that because I don't want to disrespect him because like I said, I put film evaluated on both of them, and Restrepo has everything you want to look for in a receiver, and everything that an elite receiver has to possess. Restrepo has it. So he was an elite college receiver. Now I want to see him on the next level. People are already saying that Mbuka will translate, but I think Xavier Restrepo will too. You know what I mean? Luther Burton's production was a little bit down this last past season, but I do think that Xavier Restrepo being available third, fourth round, if we gotta go, Walter Nolan, and then maybe Noah Williams from Cal, D tackle cornerback, then cool. I still think we got guys like Restrepo that would be available in the third round, or if you know what I mean, like with the second round, I talk about Kyle Williams. I talked about uh, I don't know. We don't have to reach for Restrepo that early. I think Nick Nash will be available. Like you got like so there's still guys that we can pick up in those rounds. Now don't get it twisted because these guys came from Ohio and Washington State and San Jose State that they won't be productive in the NFL. Their work ethic, they've been getting better every year. Um, and they will, and I do think that they will be productive because of the way that they work. I mean, look, like I said, when you look at stats, to me, when I look at stats, they tell me a story about the player and how they like to perform in certain situations when you're looking at certain things, right? And if you see their stats getting better every year, that means in the off season they worked hard. They were in the off season putting in work because they outdid their last season by 100 yards, 200 yards, 50 yards, however it may be. But each and every year you seen progression, and that's what you want to see in players. So I'm not really tripping on going after a Luther Burton in the first round or an Mbuka in the first round if Walter Nolan's available. If Walter Nolan is not available for us, um, if Mike Green may fall to us, I think you got to take Mike Green. Having Mike Green on the other side of T.J. Watt would be crazy, crazy, and and I think that'll help out our defense tremendously, tremendously. If we can get an edge rusher like Mike Green on that defense, if Walter Nolan's not available, and then we go ahead and grab up, um, and then like I said, a Nick Nash, Kyle Williams in the second round. Don't think that that's bad. Maybe even getting a Restrepo in the third round. I think that's very ideal for our team and trying to fill some team needs. Now, I still don't know and how comfortable I am with taking an offensive lineman. I don't mind if we go offensive lineman, but we've been missing on it. Like I said before, I don't mind if we go offensive line at all in the draft, but I just don't think you have to reach for these guys this year. I don't think taking these guys in the first round is ideal because I don't think that really. I mean, if you ain't if I'm not looking, and I hate to say this, right? But I'm gonna say it. If I'm not looking at the Ohio State offensive lineman, then who else do I want? Because and the reason why I say that because these guys battled injuries, got moved around, and played in spots where they weren't supposed to be, still won the national title, and was still able to run the ball, pass block, and everything else with them being moved around. Those are the guys that I would try kind of be looking for that I think that are probably being slept on. Now, these other guys we've seen, and granted, you're always going to get beat and everything else, but it's just tough to see. You know what I mean? It's tough to evaluate. You know what I mean? And for me this year, because I don't see nobody to me that really stands out that you have to reach for. That's a position I don't think that you have to reach for this year. Just how some people think that you don't have to reach for a quarterback, or you know what I mean, or a receiver, or however. I think that you don't have to reach for offensive lineman. I think that if you want to take one with your pick, that a one will fall to you of your choice with your pick and whichever round you choose to take one. That's just how I feel with that. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Um, what position do you think from quarterback to safety, offensive defense, that is worth reaching for, and which ones aren't worth reaching for, right? That's all I want to know. But that's my Steelers talk. I think that would be fine. You know what I'm saying? With taking I do think we'll still be able to get receiver production and receiver help in the second and third round in the draft. I do think that we'll be even the third and fourth round. I still think we'll be able to get production out of some of these guys coming out this year in the third or fourth round at receiver, um, to help out George Pickens. That's what I think. But what do y'all think? All right, let me peace. I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. Dropping